All right, I'm here with Ben Robertson of ColorBliss.art. So some quick background is Ben quit his job in September, didn't know what he was going to do, was making $0 a month, and now it's May and he hit $2,000 of MRR. So today we're just going to go over the story of how that happened, all the fears he faced, and what he's learned. So Ben, if you want to just start out, bring us back to the time when you had a job and why you wanted to quit and what kind of plans you had at that time.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Last year I was working at a VC-backed startup and we were acquired in February. And so I came over to the new company and that was a interesting experience, learned a lot. I didn't quite enjoy the work as much anymore after the acquisition. And it wasn't for me. I realized the culture was different and I just didn't want to be there. I had an agreement to stay on for 6 months, and so I thought I'll give it a shot. I'll see how it goes. But I think it was probably 3 months in. It was like end of May last year, beginning of June, where I pretty much realized this isn't for me. And and at that time, I read Paul Millard's book, The Pathless Path. I don't know if you've read that or come across it,
Mm.
but it was like after a week where I was like super depressed and feeling rough about work, and I picked up his book and I read it in a week. And for me, it pulled together a bunch of threads I had followed throughout my career, which was like 4 hour work week type stuff, like figuring out, okay, how do you make money online, passive income, that kind of thing. I had been trying to be on an early retirement track for a long time, but after I had kids, that got a little bit more stressful and finances got a little bit more complicated. And then I always had this desire to do something like that was meaningful to me. And so Paul's book really pulled together those threads and helped me look at like my life and my finances in a new way. And I realized I had all this money saved up for like my retirement, but that was still probably 10 years off or something like that. And my kids are young. And I realized I could take a chunk of that, pull it out and use it as runway to start my own thing. And with the economy the way that it was last year, a lot of tech companies were doing layoffs and stuff, and I just thought I feel confident enough in my own abilities at this point to try to go out on my own. It'll be a risk, but it's a risk working anywhere. And if I'm not going to do it now, like I just need to do that. I just knew that I needed to do it. I needed to take that bet on myself. And I had the added thing of just like being very unhappy in my day-to-day work. Yeah, and I had still 3 months to get through before I was able to finish up and then decompress and then start my own thing. But that's pretty much what got me through to September.
Okay, so 3 months before quitting, you were like, I think I know I'm gonna quit. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I know I'm gonna quit here and then finally try my own thing. Also, I didn't realize you had kids. I'm sure that adds a lot of complexity to that.
Yeah.
Did you have a set goal of how long you're gonna do this for? And did you know what you were gonna do at that time?
I didn't know what I was gonna do. I set out for myself like I had like a gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal approach where like gold medal for myself was I quit my job, I build a software product, and I'm making recurring revenue every month and it's enough to live on. And that was like my gold medal thing. Silver medal for me was I quit my job. I tried doing the software thing. Maybe it doesn't work, but I'm able to patch together some income between software and freelancing work where I don't have to have a traditional job, but I can still pay the bills and that kind of stuff. And then bronze medal was I take a year to try to do those things and it doesn't work, but I still spend a lot more time with my kids over that year I learned a bunch of things and I have interesting stories to tell when I interview for the job.
Okay. That's
So
and
that
like
was, yeah. So I was
that's
giving myself a year was basically the um, timeline.
did you were you strict about giving yourself a year? And did you have these conversations with your wife?
Yeah, when I told my when I read the book, when I read the Pathless Path, and then I said, I think I need to leave my job. She's like, I've been telling you this for months. So she was like, I don't know why it's taking you reading somebody else's book to realize this, but this is what I've been trying to tell you for a long time.
Okay.
So she was very supportive. She knew I was not happy, and she has a lot of confidence in me, which is nice. I I settled on a year just like looking at the money that we had and what we could get our expenses down to. It just seemed okay, that seems possible, but I left it flexible in the sense that I don't need to, if we can figure out a way to how to get our expenses lower, then I can make that runway last longer. If I can figure out how to make more money during that time, all those kind of things come into play there. It's more about like, how can I, the game I'm trying to play is how to just keep playing the game, how to keep going, how to make sure how I don't run out of money.
Yeah. Did you have a set time where if your SaaS stuff wasn't working out by this time, like you're gonna start freelancing?
I set a few check-in points. Like I thought like every 3 months I evaluate and see how things were going.
Yeah.
I would look at the finances every month and see, okay, how much do we spend and how much do we have and what's the state of things. So it hasn't gotten to the point yet where I'm worried about the money or from that perspective. I what keeps happening is I think I like, I'll do this one more thing and maybe I'll go do some freelancing to try to just, pocket some cash that way. And then five more things go on and then it's okay, I'll just push one more, I'll push one more. So that's been interesting, but it's still possible I might do some freelancing this summer just to, I kind of want to do that just to prove to I haven't done that yet, so I want to do that just to prove to myself I can do that if I need to. Like they want the kids want to go to the beach and stuff, and so maybe I can get a gig that will just pay for the vacation or something this summer. So, but
Yeah.
I it keeps falling off the bottom of the priority list for now.
Yeah. No, that's fair. It seems like you're growing a lot, specifically in the last couple of months, so it makes sense that just keep trying random things and if it keeps growing.
Yeah.
But so if we fast forward to now, you're making $2,000 a month selling AI generated coloring books. Pretty cool. But so I want to know about how you picked this idea and what other ideas you were thinking about at the time.
Yeah, I this idea was like in the background of my mind last year, and not necessarily as like a business, but just like as an interesting thing to do. So last year, my kids were like 5, 3, and 1, and my 5-year-old, he loved coloring. He loved to do coloring pages and stuff, and he'd always come to me and say, "Hey, Dad, can I have a coloring page?" I'd be like, "Yeah, sure. What do you want?" And he'd be like, "I want a cheetah that's running in a forest, and there's a penguin and some really complicated thing that nobody's ever thought of." And what I've noticed with my kids is to them the internet is just like an everything machine. Like, if they can think of it, surely the internet has it, and they don't realize like there's a limit. So we'd go on Google image search and we'd start searching for a coloring page, and he'd just be like, we didn't see what he wanted. He'd just be like, "Keep scrolling, Dad," and keep scrolling. And it drive me crazy because I'm like, I can tell you nobody's ever made this coloring page. It's a cool idea, but nobody's made it before. But that wasn't like he didn't have this idea of like limits. Um, and then I started seeing all the AI image generation stuff come out, and I thought, oh, this would be like the perfect thing for this, where we could just put his ideas in and make it. So I kind of had that in the background as like a cool thing to try. I didn't really think it would be like a business. That would be like a fun thing to do. So then it was So I when I decided to quit my job, I kept this like running list of ideas as they popped into my head of things I could do to make money afterwards. So then it was like September, I had quit my job. I was just getting settled and trying to, get my mind right after working and after a ton of stress and stuff. And I couldn't sleep one night and I woke up really early and I had just bought a SEMrush subscription to help me figure out SEO stuff. It was a place I wanted to get better. I was like, let me just look at the coloring pages stuff. Let me just search for what is like the search traffic around coloring pages. And I realized then that there was a ton of traffic around coloring pages, and it was like relatively easy to rank for that traffic. It wasn't like super competitive. Some of the bigger terms are competitive, but the lower ones, like mushroom coloring pages, gets a surprising amount of searches every month and is pretty low competitiveness. And I thought, okay, there's enough traffic out here around coloring pages that I think that I could get coming to a site if I started a site. And then from there, I was like, can I figure out how to make coloring pages with AI? And I started playing with prompting and stuff. And I got my son involved when I got it, what I thought was okay, hey, let's try this, just like in a stable diffusion AI, sorry, user interface. And that was just things spiraled from there. It's like, okay, let's try one more thing. Let's try one more thing. But that's how it started.
Mhm. Okay, that's very interesting. So it's like a problem you actually faced, and then you want to just try building a solution for, and then you realize maybe other people would use this. Which it's just, I have your website pulled up. It says 93,518 coloring sheets created. That's wild that that's how this idea started. But that's cool. But so did you, so when you told people that you were quitting your job to do this, and then you eventually told them that you were building like a coloring book website, did people, were they supportive or were they like, what the hell are you doing?
When I told people I was quitting, I didn't tell people that I was quitting to make a coloring page thing because that was like it was just a that wasn't my intention either. It was like I'm just quitting to try to start my own thing. I don't know what that's gonna be. And when I started working on ColorBliss, I really just started it as like an interesting product project, and I thought of it as like a test business for myself. Like it's like very low stress. Like people's businesses don't rely on it. It's basically just for fun. So like the support load would be very small on it. But I just saw it as like a practice case to be like, okay, can I get traffic to a website? Can I build a product that people will use? Can I figure out how to do SEO and those kinds of things? And then so as I was starting it out and starting it, I just thought of it as a test thing. And I thought in January I'll start a real B2B product and I'll actually start making money.
Yeah.
And so when I started telling people about it, like I think we shared it. I built like the very first thing, like homepage with a payment thing on it, payment option on it, and I think shared it on Facebook, and some of my friends and family shared it on Facebook. They thought it was cool, but it wasn't like they didn't. Nobody thought at that point it was gonna be like, oh yeah, this is Ben's job, or this is how he makes money. They're just like, oh, this is like a cool thing my brother-in-law made, or something like that.
Yeah.
But I got the first sale that way, just like my friends
Okay.
sharing on Facebook from somebody I didn't know bought it. And I was like, okay, that was so thrilling when I saw that. I was like, somebody, a stranger that I don't know, just paid me $15 for coloring pages on the internet. This is pretty cool.
So how did that work? What was like the initial business model?
The initial business model, like when I first built it, I built these like coloring page landing pages. And then I realized I needed a way to get backlinks. And so it was then that I built like the generator, like the user facing generator part. And the homepage, the first version of the homepage was really simple. It was all client side. There was no login or anything. It was like a screen where you could, looks the same as it does now, it's designed a little bit better now, but it had that same like type in a prompt and get a coloring page. And I think you could do it 3 times when you could download those coloring pages, and then you'd get hit with buy a buy button if you wanted to make more. And I just stored like how many pages people made in their local storage to track that. And I offered 3 different payments. I think I did like a 10 image credit, a 50 image credit, and then a unlimited for a year thing. So I don't really remember exactly. I think I might have been, I don't remember exactly what the pricing was. It was maybe like $10 and $15 and $50 or something like that. And so the first person bought just like first couple of people just bought the credits, and then somebody bought the the unlimited, and I thought, oh, that's $50. Like that's a lot. It's a
Okay.
lot. That's more than I realized people would spend on this.
Yeah. So your first customer, maybe your first few were from like family and friends sharing it. And then how did you get to 25 customers or 20 or 10?
Yeah, I the next thing that I did was I put it on Product Hunt. So it was like probably the that second week I put it on Product Hunt, and I got a couple of sales that way from Product Hunt. And then I think after that it started I think after that I started getting some like inbound organic traffic. Um
Like people
Searching.
searching for, yeah,
Yeah, people searching for coloring page maker or coloring page generator and that kind of stuff. And that's really been my main source of traffic ever since then, and that's what I really tried to focus on. I ran some Facebook ads at the beginning and didn't really get any sales that I could tell from there. I ran Pinterest ads. I think I maybe got 1 or 2 sales from Pinterest when I first started, but I think a lot of what happened was I got some backlinks from the product hunt launch, and it wasn't huge. I think I got like 85 upvotes. It was probably like 14 for the day or something like that, but it was more just like getting visibility and getting the backlinks from the product hunt launch.
yeah,
I like some Portuguese newspaper picked me up and wrote an article about it, so that was like a pretty high value backlink at the beginning after that product hunt launch. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm trying to remember what my like how long it took me to get 20 customers.
yeah. And you weren't doing like blog posts. It was just like the backlinks mostly.
Yeah, yeah, pretty
Okay.
much.
So those really help.
Yeah, so
Um,
I got 4 subscribers in October, and then I had 7 by November, end of November, and then it was at 19 by the end of the year.
okay. So some, like growth is starting to pick up.
Yeah,
Okay.
and like probably some of those were my mom and my dad.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And what else were you doing for marketing? Were you doing any like Twitter or Reddit or forum things or coloring book Facebook groups or anything like that?
No, I really focused a lot on building the organic traffic. So once I was starting to get traffic to the homepage, and then I was starting to get traffic to those mushroom coloring pages, star coloring pages. So once I realized like I could get traffic that way, I started scaling those out horizontally of just making is like finding the top 100 search coloring page keywords and building out landing pages for each of those. And like I would say those don't really convert into paying customers that much for me, but I think it helped build the authority of my site in the space, in the coloring page space. And yeah, I don't know, it feels silly, but it was really I've just been focusing on organic traffic basically through January, and then yeah, it started. That's January is when that started taking. January, February is when that started taking off for me.
So are all the keywords generally around AI generated coloring book or generate coloring pages with AI?
They're they're a mix. It's a lot around making coloring pages and that kind of stuff. Coloring page generator and yeah, coloring books, a lot of those. Yeah, that's probably most of it. And then I get a ton of traffic for like dragon coloring pages and stuff like that.
Okay. Because I was curious, like I thought the keywords would be expensive because even before AI, like there were probably a lot of coloring book websites that like sold individual pages, I imagined.
Most of the coloring stuff out there is like ad supported,
Okay.
which I didn't realize, but I haven't mostly have a ad blocker on all the time, so I never saw them. But it was like that first day when I was like trying to figure out like all these pages are getting so much traffic, but how are they making money? And then I turned off my ad blocker and I realized it's like 50 ads on a page.
Okay.
Uh, so that's most of it. The other thing that kind of helped me validate it is I found a couple of other services. They weren't doing like AI coloring pages, but they were doing like turn your photos into coloring pages or turn your photos into or create like paint by number stuff. And they were selling either credits or subscriptions to those. So that was also how I did that initial validation of this is like something that people will pay for, was seeing like there was other things in the same space that were charging money and people were paying for.
Okay. So we talked about how you got like your first 20-ish customers, and now you're at about 2,000 a month or a little over 2,000 a month. And what were like the biggest obstacles or learnings you had to overcome to get to that point?
I think the growth has been like surprising to me mostly. It's been very surprising. So like basically by end of December, I think I hit 100 MRR in January. And at that point, I realized it'd been like, okay, I quit my job 4 months ago. Like the coloring page thing is fun, but I'm not making a ton of money on it. And I didn't really see a path to make a ton of money on it. I think I was doing like it was like $5 a month or something like that. That was the subscription that I was offering. And so I needed like 1,000 customers or something to be able to cover my living expenses. There was like a path to get there, but it was like a really long path. And so I had these other like B2B ideas. And so I said, oh, in January, I'll start on the B2B ideas. And so I was going to do, I don't know if you've seen Tebow on Twitter doing like Tweet Hunter and Taplio, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll do one of those for Instagram because I had been trying. Oh, that was the other thing. I didn't mention this, but I had been trying to grow my Instagram account for ColorBliss, and I don't know that much about Instagram, and I thought it'd be really cool to have. I had used some of those services and thought, oh, these are like pretty cool ways to help people grow, and so I thought it'd be cool to have an Instagram thing like that. So it was January. Two things happened in January. My server where I was hosting all my coloring pages, like the free ones, that crashed and I lost all the data and all my landing pages and everything.
Oh my.
And that was like my SEO. I had started to watch my SEO like at the end of December and January 1st. It was like I was just starting to get. I could see a taste of the traffic that was about to come, and then it crashed. So I like lost all those landing pages. And so I spent the first week of January, first 2 weeks or something like rebuilding all of that, like trying to get that up and running as fast as possible, and then like scaling that out like to like 100 or 200 pages or something like that. Um,
Okay.
and then I started working on a different product. I started working on like the Instagram thing, and I spent a month on that, and I just didn't work on Color Bliss at all, and it just kept going. But was what was interesting was, I guess it was by, yeah, I'm looking, I had added like, I guess I had hit 100 MRR in January, but then I added $164 in MRR in February. And I realized like I was starting to watch the growth curve go up.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And so I spent a month on this other thing. And then basically I got to this point where I was like, okay, I've got it to a point where it's good enough where I can release the first version of this. I just need to get it through Facebook app review to get approved. And I think I submitted it like 6 or 7 different times. And I just couldn't get it through the app review process. And it was like, it was very frustrating. But at that same time, I started to see the growth chart on ColorBliss. And then I started doing some math, like realizing I didn't need to like 10x what I was doing on ColorBliss. I just needed to like 3x it. And that would be enough customers. If I was getting like 60 customers a month, that would be enough to like in 12 months be at a really good place. And so like by the end of February, I was like, okay, I got 23 customers this month. Like I almost doubled what I was doing from before. I think I can 3x that. I think I can figure out how to 3x. That sounds reasonable to me. So let me just go back over here and focus on 3xing that amount. And that was when I pivoted back to ColorBliss. And then that was when I just decided I'm just gonna go all in on coloring pages. And it's fun. It's fun to work on. I think it can work. I think it's feasible, and I'm just gonna manifest. And that's when I changed my Twitter handle to the coloring page kingpin or whatever. I was like, I'm just gonna make everybody know this is what I do. I do coloring pages and see what happens from there.
That's funny. That's awesome though. So I've never really gotten to a point where I have more than like a handful of customers. And I'm curious, once you get to 20 customers, how does like your focus shift? I imagine it's like you're less focused on getting a working product, more focused on like growth.
Yeah. Yeah, I focus. Let's see. As in terms of like the product, I think like I don't think I built out user accounts until December.
Okay.
Like the first customer, maybe it was November, I think was when I actually built out user accounts. So there wasn't even a login until November.
So
Once
they
I
just
had,
paid directly on Stripe or something.
yeah,
Okay.
they paid directly on Stripe, and then they could only use their credits on that same computer that they bought it
Okay.
on. And then I guess it was November I built out the login system, but it was still very simple to log in. And then I think from there, I really was focusing on the SEO side of things and build up more landing pages and that kind of stuff. And then as I started to get, yeah, probably January, February, I think I set up like an email flow, like a welcome sequence for people where I would ask for part of it was like ask for feedback. Part of it was like I got this from a guy I used to work with, Hashim Warren, on Twitter. He's been sharing lots of email tips with me, but basically like, his email flow is day one is welcome them. I think I welcome them, give them some tips, and then day two, I ask them like, "Hey, how did you hear about me? And who are you making coloring sheets for?" And then I think day three was like, "Here's some testimonials and a discount." And so I started to get just emailing people, like they could reply back to those emails, and so I started to get some idea of what people wanted, like both who they were and then like ideas that they maybe had to make the product better. So, for instance, one question I started getting was, can I use the coloring pages I make in my own coloring books that I sell? Um, and I realized, okay, so like people, that's one thing people are looking for is they're looking to sell these. So then I just added that to the FAQ. Yeah, you can use this. And then it was later on that I realized like, oh, those are like prosumers. Like they're not quite like B2B, but that's like that prosumer category. Like, these are people who are looking to make money doing this. I can charge them more for this. But it was like at that point in January, probably in February, I started to get a little bit more regular feedback from people. oh, the quality is not the greatest. This could be improved, or I'd really like to see this thing. And another thing that I did at that stage was I ran a test on AdWords, like for some keywords that I didn't quite rank on yet. But I was like seventh or eighth down, but I wanted to see if I bought an ad for it, would it convert? It did start converting. I made a couple customers that way. But then Google started like recommending all these other keywords that weren't relevant to what I was selling, but were like in the space. So like custom coloring books, personalized coloring books, photo to coloring book. And so that helped me realize, oh, there's other things that are related to what I'm doing that I could add on to the product that people are already paying for, that there's like a
Okay.
fair amount of traffic for. And that's what helped inform my roadmap for the past few months was like, okay, I had these big three features that were like, I thought would help with user acquisition. And then it's been like, okay, work on releasing one of those features, let it simmer for a little bit, see how people use it, see if I can get some feedback on it while I'm working on the next one. And that's the stage I've been at for the last few months.
Okay. So where do you think you can take this in terms of MRR in like 12 months and then the max in like 10 years or whatever?
Yeah, I my original goal when I set out was like I wanted to get to 6K MRR, and I thought I could see a path to doing that in 12 months. That seemed reasonable. I've since realized I need more than that to live on. But I've also realized like I'm growing much faster than I planned now. Like I hit 1,000 MRR in April, but then I hit 2,000 MRR like at the beginning of May. Like I added $1,000 of MRR in 1 month alone. And so I think I can keep that rate going. And so I think I could hit 10K MRR this year on this, just like looking at my projections. And that would be honestly, that's better than my wildest expectations when I started this thing. Looking at 10 years, I don't know that this is like a 10-year business for me. Like I would love to, I'm enjoying working on it. I think it's really fun. I love telling people that I make coloring pages for a living, but I'd also love I'd also love to sell a business and see what I could do after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last question about your business. What feature coming up do you think could get you there, and what marketing channel do you think will be most vital in getting you there?
As far as feature sets, I have the I have the core features that I wanted to build that I think will get me to the spot I need to get to. The But there's one piece of feedback that I keep hearing is that the output is so unreliable for people as far as they're getting the four legs or three fingers kind of stuff. And there's a couple, the main things I have right now are like, okay, text prompts, and then you can turn your photos into coloring pages, and then you can actually turn your drawings into coloring pages. I think the next, and then I also have the custom coloring books piece. I've sold one custom coloring book just now. So I think there's a lot of headroom in the custom coloring book space. And then
And
I
so what
still
does
think
that mean? Is that just 10 or 20 different pages?
um it's like um how I've got it right now is you can upload as many pages as you want. I'm sure there's an upper limit on the print service I'm using. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. Um, but you can either upload your own pages or use the pages you've made with ColorBliss and get a coloring book shipped to your door.
Okay.
Um, so I shipped one to the Netherlands last month, which was pretty cool. and the quality, they liked it quite a bit. I just got a inquiry today of like how much would it cost for 225 coloring books? Which would be a huge order. It's a
Yeah.
little intimidating for me because it's like a printed thing and shipped to their door and stuff. And
Are you
um,
making these?
I have a print service
Okay.
that I use to do it. So like I let them upload their foot pages and I help them with the cover design and then I ship that off to the print service and doing the middleman there. But I think that could be a huge business. Honestly, that's a business in and of itself, but I think it could be a huge business for me. And then the photo to coloring page piece, like that was an existing, there were some services out there that were already existing doing that. And so bundling that into what I have, I think I have a lot of room to grow there. And then the next feature that I'm looking at is like some like editing features or in painting, masking, that kind of stuff with AI where you can like, okay, if you get like a dinosaur that has too many arms, you can erase one and have it just edit that page rather than just trying to over and over to make a new page.
Yeah.
Um, so that's from the product perspective. Um, as far as marketing channels, I'm calling this month Marketing May. And so I've just been trying to run a ton of different experiments to see what I can do to move the needle. Because basically, like I said, like my main channel has been organic, which is really cool. But as I've grown, like I realized it's scary for all my traffic to be coming from one spot. I get a lot of SEO conversations in my Twitter feed, and it gives me a lot of anxiety because it's, oh, the algorithm's changing and Google's shutting off these sites and that kind of thing. And when that's my only source of traffic, that makes me feel scared.
Yeah.
Like, what happens if Google shuts down the organic traffic coming to my site? So I think there's reasons why I'm not as afraid of that as a lot of the stuff I see out there on Twitter, but it would make me feel a lot better to have another marketing channel, especially one that like I could be more in control of scaling. That'd be really nice. So I'm running some ads on Facebook, Instagram this month. Um, I've been investing a lot in my email marketing flows this month and last month, that's been pretty promising. I paid for some traffic on, there's an AI for that. So one of those AI directories to see what that would do. And I just before this call, I purchased like Instagram reel on somebody else's Instagram page for them to make to see how that would do. So I did have somebody make a reel last month that I was not involved in. And their reel was like, check out this coloring page site. You can get unlimited coloring pages because they don't do email verification. And,
Nice. Super
and so I
helpful.
had like a huge influx of people that were just creating as many emails as possible to make free coloring pages. But I also got a pretty big chunk of like new business that way as
Okay.
well. Um, so I've since locked that down where I do rate limiting and stuff. But I think social could be promising.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I see that. And I got my first sale off of my Instagram ads today.
Nice.
My ROI is not huge on it unless that customer stays for 8 or 9 months, I think.
Okay.
But it's okay. I know it's possible for me to sell there. And I'm also running some search ads also this month. So just trying to run a bunch of experiments and see what looks promising and then hopefully find one other channel that I can invest a lot in to help the growth.
Yeah. I've done a lot of like Facebook ads and cold email stuff, but it's tough because to properly A/B test it and like really take all the learnings that are in front of you, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So it's hard to do all that stuff. But I was curious, like, who are you mostly targeting? Is it like parents or teachers or
Yeah, it's a good question, one that people ask me a lot, and I don't always have the best answer to this. I feel like I'm not as sophisticated where people are like, you gotta have your persona figured out, and I think that would help me a lot. I just don't quite have it completely figured out. But what I see from the customers and people I talk to is I talk to a lot of teachers, I talk to a lot of grandmas, and then I talk to a lot of people that want to make money selling coloring books.
yeah,
And so those are the three people that I have. And that's how I did new pricing last month, or yeah, last month I did new pricing. And that's like how I structured the tiers of the pricing, where I've got this like starter plan that's just like, hey, I just want to make coloring pages like for my grandkids or whatever, and it's not like this big thing. So that's 500 pages a month, and you just get the text prompts. And then I have like a hobby tier, which is I like making coloring pages, and I want to make some from photos, and I want to make some from drawings, and I want to do text prompts, and you get a lot more images on that one. And then I called the top one the artist plan, and that's where you get like commercial licensing, and you can do wholesale pricing on the custom coloring books. And so I've tailored that one towards that prosumer type persona, and that's where a huge amount of the growth has come from, and the revenue growth, which honestly I was surprised about. I thought nobody was going to buy that. I thought I was like trying to come up with three plans so everybody would go to the middle plan, but a lot of the growth has come from that top plan.
how much is the top plan?
It is $30 a month.
Okay, yeah. And have you thought about, I'm sure you've thought about this, but like creating it a marketplace so people can sell their art on your website where you just take like a percentage of it?
I have thought about it. It just sounds really complicated.
Yeah, that's fair. All the taxes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so people, it's something that people suggest to me from time to time, but I, yeah, I don't, maybe we'll see.
All right. And if, for the listeners, I recently quit my job. I was working at Expedia, and this is week 3 of waking up and not knowing exactly what I'm going to do each day. So, what advice would you have for someone like me who's just figuring things out and trying to get to where you are with the product?
Yeah. I think first of all, like my first month after I quit my job was awful. It took me like a whole month probably to figure out a new routine and to dump all of the cruft I had in my head. Like I remember the first Monday after I quit my job, it was like I still had all these tasks that I was like, oh, I forgot to do this. I said I was going to do that. I didn't do this. It was like all this like work stuff that was still going on. I think it probably took me a month to get that all out and behind me, and then to come up with a new routine and a new schedule that I wanted my life to not look exactly like it looked like after when I had a job. So that was part of my plan.
Yeah.
So I think give yourself some time to get your head in a different space would be like my starting advice. And then I think the other the other thing I would recommend is it's good to focus. It's good to focus on one thing. Things can happen more slowly than you realize. And so something that has been helpful for me was was to actually like I think it's really good to focus, but then it's also good to sometimes have something else to focus on while something is simmering over here.
Yeah.
And that was what happened for me with ColorBliss. Like I said, like I spent a whole month working on this other SaaS, and it didn't and nothing happened. But in the course of that month when I didn't do anything on ColorBliss, like that was when it started growing. And then I started realizing that. So it doesn't it's not always like how much you grind is how much the thing is going to grow. Like sometimes you just let it sit and do its thing and collect feedback that way. And then I think the last piece is know why know why you're in it, know why you're doing what you're doing. Like for me, I think it would be like I've always wanted to have my own SaaS. I always have thought that'd be really cool. At the same time, that's not my number one priority. My number one priority right now is not have a job. And so whatever I can do to stay out of that reality, that's what I want to do. And so if I need to switch gears because ColorBliss isn't paying the bills, like I'll do that before I have to take a job.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess that's three things. So that's probably enough.
Yeah. For
And
me,
you should
it's
read
like,
and you should read The Pathless Path. I think you should read that book. That's highly
yeah,
recommend that book for sure.
I'll check it out. I'm realizing like I'm on week 3, halfway through week 3, and I have 6 months. That's my agreement with my wife.
Yeah.
And I'm just like freaking out because I'm like, I don't want to get another job. I need to make this work, even though I'm on week 3. So it really does put a pressure like I've never felt before. And I think it's like in a good way. We have savings and stuff, so that helps. But
Yeah.
overall, I'm working so much harder on this stuff than if I was doing it on the side of a job that you get home and you're tired from it and you're like, I don't know, do I really care that much? So the motivation is just incredible.
Yeah. I had side projects when I had jobs, but I never could. I could maybe do 1 or 2 hours a week on them,
Yeah.
especially with the kid after I had kids and stuff. And so I don't work a full week on Color Bliss. Like I work like 20 hours a week is like the limit I set for myself. But I'm able to get an incredible amount done in those 20 hours because I focus. I know this is my time to work, and I don't have a ton of meetings and other stuff going on.
Did you run into burnout at all?
I when I quit my job, I didn't say that I was burnt out. And then that first week, I read this book about burnout and it like described me perfectly. I was like, oh yeah, I was burnt out.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um,
gotta check this book out.
so I definitely that I wasn't like some people get it really bad. I wasn't like totally spent, but it definitely took me like a month of unwinding and processing stress to get to a better spot.
Yeah. Yeah. I was working on my side projects just like all the time on top of work. So then the first week I scheduled so many appointments that I've been meaning to for the
Yeah.
last 6 months. It's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, my last question, I like to be selfish on this podcast. And so the SaaS that I'm working on right now is called copybuddy.io.
Mhm.
So I have a cold email agency with a couple clients, and writing the copy takes the longest. And so I was using ChatGPT, but developed my own prompt for it. And so this product just uses GPT and a bunch of prompting to write the cold emails for you. I've had 400 people generate emails, or I had 300 people generate emails when there was no login and it was free. Then I added a login and 150 people generated emails. I think like 30 of them came back another day to generate new ones. And so today or last night, I required a payment to even generate a single email because it seems like you have had a lot of free users and have probably encountered this problem quite a bit of for me, my free plan allowed you to generate 5 emails, but then one person created 4 different accounts with different emails to get
Yeah.
around that. So I'm just curious what you would do in this situation. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have any kind of gating. Like I said, I got that Facebook or that Instagram reel last month where it was like, look at this place where you can sign up. Like I didn't do any email verification. And so people would just add like totally fake emails in to create free accounts. I'll say I didn't worry about it too much because I also had it was like people could pay me, they could create a free account. Like it didn't cost me that much when somebody made a free account. So it didn't like it felt like more work for me to add the validation stuff. And if somebody really just wants to spend all their time creating free accounts, go for it because it didn't cost me that much. But I signed up for an email service last month, bentonow.com. And And Jesse, who's the founder there, he was letting me know, hey, I'm getting too much spam email signups and it's hurting the deliverability and stuff. And so he started giving me advice on what I should do to tackle that problem. So that's when it became a bigger problem for me. So the two things that I did were I did do rate limit. I rate limit by IP address on the sign up form. So like you just can't sign up for more than one account from the same IP address in a certain time period. And then I added email verification. So like you get a one-time password before you can do anything. You get a one-time password to your email. I thought that would like really limit the amount of signups I get, and it didn't at all. Like
Hmm.
I was pretty surprised that it did not limit how many free account signups I'm getting. I think for you, I would say like the main thing that you want to validate though is that people will pay you for this and figure out how to find out that. So I think you're just starting this experiment today where there's
Yeah.
payment. Like my strategy has been like I let people try it a little bit with the hopes that they'll try it and then they'll see, oh, this is great. Like, I want to use this. And then I also can market to them after the fact. So I send them like 5 emails or something when they sign up of look at all the cool stuff you can do. So that might be a strategy you can take. I don't know if you're already emailing people that way. You can also like that's one, you can market that way, but also that's a great way to just get feedback from people of like, why did you sign up? What are you using this for? What's it missing? So all the emails I send, I make sure like people know they can reply to them. And that's how I have gotten all my product ideas almost is just like hearing it from those people.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been wondering about setting up that kind of email sequence to remind them of the product and get feedback. So I'll probably reach out to you about that.
Yeah.
But overall, thanks for sharing the story. I feel like this is a really interesting one because it's making thousands of dollars with coloring books, which is pretty unique. So yeah, thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Adam.